franktalks.com.
You're listening to Frank Talks, Pleasures and Lifestyles, and I'm Frank because I have to be. On today's show, we are talking to the father of the seduction community at large, the man who started it all, Mr. Ross Jeffries. Welcome to Frank Talks, Ross.
It's a pleasure to be here, and I was just reflecting, I've been doing radio programs. I started out in 1990. It's 16 years of doing radio. And back when I started, there was no internet to speak of. Back then, they had something called DARPANet, where the various different defense research laboratories could talk to each other. But I never dreamed I'd be doing a broadcast over someone's internet radio program. Who knows what the next decade would bring,
Let's look at this, Ross. I'm going to have to ask you this. Did you ever imagine that something that you developed so many years ago would have affected as many men's lives as it has?
Well, of course, being the absolute cosmic genius I am, I foresaw the whole thing. I foresaw in great detail down the scope of the years exactly where it would go. I foresaw the invention of the World Wide Web and the spread of the community and the different rival schools popping up. I saw it all in a detailed vision. Of course not. I started to look. When I did my first book, I would bring it to my parents' house, and we'd sit at my mom's kitchen table and staple the copies of my original book together. I would carry the orders to the post office. I had no idea whatsoever.
Actually, let's talk about when you started off. Normally when I do this show, I'll ask a person where they were born and to tell me a little bit about their life as it relates to what they're doing now. Were you always the great seducer you are now, or was there a process?
No. It's funny, I rarely work with private clients, but I've been developing some very new technology for breaking people out of deeply stuck learned helplessness. And one of my experimental beta testing subjects, I had him over here, and I was explaining to him that I know exactly how guys are deeply stuck because I used to be that stuck. So I know the exact structure of stuckness, how it self-reinforces, how it feeds itself. So far from it. I was the guy in college who was always the best friend, the buddy, you're such a good friend, but for some reason they didn't want to get naked with me, So no, I was far from that, far from it.
Given what you went through, a lot of guys who go through what you went through sometimes develop a lot of misogyny, anger towards women. Have you gotten over that? And if so, how?
I think underneath the misogyny is really a deep frustration. When guys go through this, it's not really hatred. What's at the center of it is really just a lot of depression, a lot of sadness, a lot of just pent-up frustration. It's a very difficult thing in that area of life to not have your needs met and to buy into the belief that you'll never have them met, or to buy into the belief that they'll only be met sporadically or poorly and not up to your expectations. And it becomes a self-reinforcing loop.
Now, let's look at where speed seduction is today. It's gone through some metamorphosis since it first started out. How would you define speed seduction as it exists right now?
I would say it's a set of a few technologies working together in harmony. The first technology is a technology for unblocking guys from their fixed beliefs, useless patterns of thinking and emotion, ways of perceiving women and themselves and how men and women interact. So the first third of the technology, I would say, is for radically. And by radically, it comes from the Latin root meaning going right to the root of things. Going right to the root of things is what radical means. So for radically, in every sense of the word, reforming a guy's sense of attractiveness, his beliefs about who he can attract and how he'll go about doing it. So it's the internal transformation. Yes?
Yep.
The second part of the technology, excuse me, I've been talking a lot today, my voice is a little raw. The second part of the technology is the actual what you do in the field to attract women and to seduce women. That's the second part. And the third part, I would say, is developing a learning and motivation strategy to actually consistently apply the tools so you get really good at them. And the third part, though, is really powerful, and that has to do with developing a technology for learning from your mistakes and staying motivated as you go up the learning curve. There's many different schools of seduction and pickup in the community, and I'm not going to get into the relative merits of them, at least not now. I might later in the call. If you ask me, I'll give you my frank opinions. But for now, what I'll say is none of them give you any kind of realistic method for learning from your mistakes and staying motivated. They don't tell you how to learn from what you did. They just say, well, learn from your mistakes and keep going. They don't give you an exact procedure for doing it. And one of my learnings is that in any area of life where a person is deeply stuck, one of the things that's keeping them deeply stuck is they either do not have a strategy for learning from their mistakes, or they're so emotionally blocked that in that area of life they can't or don't apply that strategy. You understand?
Yes.
So that ability to actually learn from your mistakes and stay appropriately motivated is the other chunk. So those are the three chunks of speed seduction, and in every area we've made some big leaps in the past, 5 years.
I have to ask you, who are some of the biggest influences that you have studied under or that you admire that have affected the way, not only how you teach speed seduction, but how it's developed?
Well, currently, I would say I've been fortunate. In the last 4 months, I've been very blessed to discover the work of the person I consider to be the greatest teacher I've ever met in my life, ever. And do understand that I've been into powers of the mind and hypnosis and meditation and the occult and all this stuff since I was a teenager. And that was just a few years ago, but it's been 3 decades that I've been into this stuff, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And 20 years ago I discovered, I stumbled onto NLP, which really blew my mind. But in the last 4 months, I have met a teacher and a set of disciplines that has impressed me more than anything in the last 2 decades. It's been 2 decades since anything impressed me as deeply, and that was NLP back in 1987. The teacher is Shinzen Young, and he teaches a form of meditation called Vipassana. But his applications of Vipassana make it graspable and easily used by Westerners. And he's been a gigantic influence over the last 4 months, his work. His website is Shinzen, 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 Shinzen.org. Absolutely astounding stuff. Other influences, of course, NLP, Richard Bandler, Milton Erickson, who died, before I ever discovered his work, but he's been a huge influence. And some of the other great thinkers, like Robert Anton Wilson, what is the name of the gentleman? Stanislav Grof, who wrote an absolutely brilliant book that I took an entire summer to read called Beyond the Brain. I couldn't recommend it highly enough. Some of his thinking about how people stay deeply stuck. I've been very influenced by Huna, books on Huna, which is a Hawaiian spiritual system. I've been profoundly influenced by my friendship with my spiritual teacher and dear friend Shirlene, who has really softened me and shown me some examples about what coming from the heart and loving people is truly about. She's been an avatar of love who's softened me greatly and shown me some different perspectives. So those are some of the influences on speed seduction and also on how I teach. There are certain skill sets that come together to make someone a teacher. And I think those skill sets have always been present in me in one form or another. It continues to get better.
I'm really glad you mentioned the topic of softening up and finding love, because later in the show, one of the questions I am going to ask you is, can a master seducer who can seduce any woman he really wants truly find love?
Well, first of all, I don't think there is any such critter. Just like Shinzen says, there are no truly fully enlightened masters who are flawless, okay? There may be people who dip into the experience of enlightenment far more frequently and far more deeply than others, but there's no such critter as a man who can seduce any woman he wants. There ain't no such critter. I've never met one. I'm not one. It's a myth, and it's not really a very useful myth.
All right. We're going to go to commercial right now, and when we come back from commercial, we're going to take your calls. You can give us a call, and you can ask Ross a question directly. Let's go to commercial right now.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by Everything Out of Her Mouth is a Test, a man's guide to the emotional needs of women. What would your life be like if you knew exactly what to say and do with women? This book is for the guy that simply wants to learn how to handle women's tests by addressing her emotional needs. By this, you create the type of attraction that will make her see you as the one she was destined to be with. This book will teach you how to get the woman you want and how to keep her. Everything Out of Her Mouth is a Test is the Rosetta Stone for men to understand exactly what a woman means when she speaks and how to respond. Is that worth changing your life forever? Buy this book at franktalks.com now.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by From Loser to Seducer by Frank B. Kermit. Ladies, is there a man in your life that got dumped for being clingy, needy, or was told he was a loser, but you still think he's a nice guy and want to help him? He could be a relative or even a friend, and you know he needs the help. Do you want to be the one to give him the gift that will change his life forever? How about the gift of a great biography? Buy him the book, From Loser to Seducer by Frank B. Kermit. It is the story of a nice guy who triumphs over his inner demons to find his own hidden power. Help the nice guy in your life discover his inner seducer to find his soulmate. Buy this book now at franktalks.com.
And we're back here on Frank Talks, Pleasures and Lifestyles. And I'm Frank because I have to be. Let's continue with our interview with Ross Jeffries. Ross, you still there?
Yeah, I think you should say I'm Frank because I choose to be, and don't you love it, ladies? You know, it's funny. I'm just laying here on the floor in my palatial estate in Marina Del Rey, California, right next door to Venice Beach, 5 blocks from the ocean. I'm thinking, I've been doing this a long time. I have done radio all over the world at every hour of the day, 24 hours around the clock, all different times of the day or night. I've gotten up at 3 in the morning my time to do drive time in New York. I'm in L.A., so I'm 3 hours earlier than that. I've done radio in the studio live. It's been a crazy career, and I think I've done well over 400 radio interviews. And occasionally I like to turn the tables on the host. So I'm going to do that right now and say, Frank, how did you come to Speed Seduction? How did you discover it? If you don't mind me turning the tables and pulling a fast one on you, how did you come to Speed Seduction?
How I came to find Speed Seduction. In my autobiography, From Loser to Seducer, I talk about a number of bad things happening to me, including losing my ex-fiancée to one of my best friends. And I just reached a point where I hit rock bottom, and I had to make a choice. Either I kill myself, or I finally figure out my love life. I finally figure out how to get along with women and how to make a relationship work.
Now, I want to stop you right there, because I think women who are listening to this broadcast should understand that that's not uncommon. That I've heard this story from literally hundreds of guys who've said to me, you saved my life. I was ready to commit suicide. I would have committed suicide had I not found your work. This level of frustration and loneliness is beyond epidemic. It's pandemic. If women, for a moment, could really, truly understand the level of despair that so many men are walking around pretty successfully disguising, their hearts would burst open. They really would if they could see it. And I'm not saying there isn't pain inflicted on the other side. I get it. But I think if we're ever going to start really getting along, we need to acknowledge each other's pain without blaming each other for it. I just want women to get that many, and Frank, I get you're not a bad guy. You were never looking to be like a usurious womanizer. You just wanted to have some choice and be happy.
All I really wanted at the time was I just wanted my ex-fiancée back and to have a relationship.
Yeah, they always do. They come to me, I go, no, this is not the way, my son. Trust me. Follow in the footsteps of Sarge, and you shall find moist abundance.
Well, I continued on that path. I didn't know where to start. And when I got to eBay, I simply did a search under the word seduction, and I found some of your products. I read the description, checked out your website, and that's how I came across your material. And,
very good.
And that's...
I know it's made a difference, and I'm glad to hear it.
It's made an incredible difference. I've written an autobiography, From Loser to Seducer, where I talk about getting stood up at the prom, losing my ex-fiancée to my best friend, going 5 years with no sex, and turning that around.
Stop right there. Women who are listening to this, who are even halfway attractive, can't understand that. 5 years without sex, that's crazy. You know, They can always get a booty call if they want it.
Absolutely.
It's beyond belief what men go through. Your story is not uncommon. It's very common.
And I went from all that, the 5 years of no sex, and turning it around, having 5 girlfriends at the same time, having a poly date, which is dating 2 women on Valentine's Day at the same dinner date, and having a great experience with that. There's no better feeling than walking the street with a girl on each arm that both think you're the tops and that you think really well of them. And that's
I don't know what you look like. You're a great-looking guy?
Not at all, dude. When I started this, I was way over 300 pounds. I was morbidly obese. I was so big, I could not stand up out of the chair for more than 20 minutes, or I'd be in incredible pain in my feet. And I've lost some of the weight, but I'm still a big guy. If you all visit my website, franktalks.com, you'll see pictures. I'm still a big guy. The most attractive thing about me is my eyes. I got really nice eyes. Other than that, forget it. That's fine by me. After everything I've been through, I want someone who makes me happy, not someone who's just a pretty face.
Amen. And that's what all men should come to. All men need to come to that discovery, but first they need to go through some mountains of flesh before they do. Let me ask you some more questions about your own story, if you don't mind continuing to switch it around on you.
Sure.
When you first got my products, did you believe they worked? Did you believe the claims I made? Or did you think, well, it's even 1/10 is true? It's worth
No, I didn't. When I was going on faith, I was figuring, well, I'm going to try this. The money that I blew on your products, I figured I was going to blow even more money on women that and not get anything for it. I figured if even you could provide me with a fraction of what you promised, then it would make just that much more of a difference.
Now, the first time you tried it, and it actually worked, whenever that was, and that woman actually, you saw that she wanted you. I mean, let me ask you this.
Oh, we got a call, Ross. Let's go straight to the caller. What do you say? Hi, you're on the air at Frank Talks.
My name is Link. I come from Waterloo, Ontario.
Ross, can you hear him?
Barely, but that's okay. He's Rick from Ontario.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a question. My problem is that I'm afraid of going out and approaching people because rejection threatens my self-image of being good with women, and my subconscious doesn't allow that. What can you suggest to help me fix that?
Did you hear the question?
I think he said he's afraid to approach people because why?
Can you repeat that, Rick?
Sure. Because getting shot down by women threatens my self-image of being good with women. And
I'd stop him right there. Stop right there. The whole metaphor of being shot down is ridiculous. You're not an airplane. They're not a missile or an artillery shell, and you're not going to crash in flames and explode. The worst that's going to happen is you're going to find out that someone doesn't want to talk to you. And guess what? Women are like Doritos. Eat all you want, we'll make more. There are billions of them. So no one is shooting you down. The worst that's going to happen is you're going to discover that someone doesn't want to play with you in the way that you want to play with them. You've got to start taking on that mindset. As long as you hold that metaphor in the back of your mind of being shot down, then that metaphor is actually going to be an umbrella of consciousness under which every other thought is subsumed. I'm very serious about that. I'm very, very serious about it. So I would first and foremost get rid of that metaphor and find a more useful one. That's number one.
All right. Is this that my subconscious, the protection of ego, is not letting me approach because I'm afraid that the interaction not turning out well would mean that I'm not.
Well, I think that's mostly BS. I think it's that metaphor that's stopping you first and foremost.
Okay, and
change that metaphor into something more useful. Second, if you want a different result, and Frank knows this as being a successful user of my material, if you want a different result, you've got to rehearse it. You've got to rehearse a different result if you want a different result. You understand? You must.
I should rehearse.
You need to begin to vividly rehearse how you'd like to talk, how you'd like to feel, how you'd like to act. If you don't vividly rehearse it, you'll stay stuck. Frank, you can give him some counseling. You've been in this situation. How did you overcome your fear of getting shot down, approaching?
The way I overcame it is I just dealt with the fact that, you know what, rejection never feels good, and no matter what level you achieve, you're still going to get rejected sometimes. It's just that you don't take it as personal, and you just continue to plow through even though you may deal with the fact that you got rejected. But once you're actually dating more women, and once you actually get that experience under your belt, it isn't so bad. It's not so bad that some girl doesn't call you after you give her your card. It's not so bad that you get rejected. Why? Because chances are you've already got two or three other women who you'll see later on in the week. It's just a lifestyle change.
Frank, I want to ask you a question. Thank you, caller. The first time you used this and a woman actually grabbed you, and when you ended that 5-year sex fast, you actually ended it and had sex with the first woman in 5 years, were you thinking, thank you, Ross Jeffries? Or were you thinking, oh my God, it really works, he wasn't lying? What went through your head?
Well, okay, there's a story that will actually answer that. Very early in my development, probably around the 3.5 to 4 year mark, I had used a lot of the material you had taught me, and I actually got a girl to come over to my place who had never seen me before, using internet dating, but still using your skills over the net. She, at one point, we watched a movie. I still wasn't really making the first moves. At one point, she says, I'm going to get up and leave. I simply talked to her, and within 20 minutes from that point, she was lying down on my sofa, naked, ready for me. I was so in shock that I could actually be with a woman on the first date, someone who hardly knew me and still wanted to be with me. And this was when I was morbidly obese. I'm a big guy now, but this was when I was morbidly obese. I couldn't even perform. That's how shocked I was that it was actually working for me.
That usually happens. See, and this puts to the lie, some of my people who try to criticize me say, well, it only works because it's placebo. Guys believe it's going to work, so it does. And I'm very quick to counter and say, no. They don't believe it's going to work, and it does. In fact, they so don't believe it that even when it's working, they can't believe it to the point where they can't perform. That's exactly the case, and I'm willing to bet that after she went home, you probably experienced a sense of unreality. Like, I can't believe that really just happened. Did that occur for you?
That lasted for a couple of days. It just changed the entire way that I filtered the world.
Yeah. For a couple of days, did it feel like, wow, did that really happen? Did you have a sense of reality breaking loose?
Absolutely.
That's what happened the first time it worked for me back in 1988 when I ended a very long dry spell on my boss's desk with someone who came in to interview for a job. I couldn't believe it. I was like in a stupor for 2 or 3 days. Like, wait, it was like being in the twilight zone in between realities. Do you remember what patterns you used on her before she was about to leave? She was about to leave. What did you do with her?
I honestly, I don't. It's quite a blur to me. What I do remember saying is, well, you could leave if you want to, however, and then I just started making her feel comfortable. I wasn't trying to game her. I wasn't trying to do anything underhanded. I was just trying to make her feel comfortable, and we just started with a massage, and it just went from there. Ross?
The old massage trick, Siegfried, works every time.
Ross, I'm getting the signal here. We got to go to commercial. Let's go to commercial.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by the Adult Male Virgin Seminars and Telephone Consultations. If you are an adult and want to get a handle on this once and for all, you need this seminar. Being an adult male virgin can be most stigmatizing in today's society. You feel like a failure in the eyes of the mass culture around you, alienated from your male friends who all talk about their sexual conquests, and you must hide this shameful secret lest they use it against you. And the very personal pain, anguish, and despair that cannot be described by words that haunts you every moment of your life. Enough is enough. It is time for male virgins to take charge of their sex lives. Frank gives you the rules of winning in this seminar. The Adult Male Virgin Seminars and Telephone Consultations. Make your first time the best time of her life. Only available at franktalks.com. Frank helps adult boys turn into men. Frank Talks is sponsored in part by Everything Out of Her Mouth is a Test, a man's guide to the emotional needs of women. What would your life be like if you knew exactly what to say and do with women? Learn how to handle women's tests by addressing her emotional needs. By this, you create the type of attraction that will make her see you as the one. This book is a guide for men to understand exactly what a woman means when she speaks. Is that worth changing your life forever? Buy this book at franktalks.com now.
You want to learn new things? Want to meet new people? Want to discover real possibilities? Listen to Frank Talks, Pleasures and Lifestyles in Making the World a Better Place. Be sure to visit our website at www.franktalks.com for the most update information and the latest downloads of programs just like the one you are listening to now.
And we're back here on Frank Talks, Pleasures and Lifestyles. And I'm Frank because I have to be, with Ross Jeffries. Are you there, Ross?
I am.
All right. I wanted to bring up a topic, the idea of the natural. One of the issues with a lot of the seduction instructors out there is that a lot of them don't necessarily come from a place of pain. Some of them were always naturally good with women, and they decide that they're going to become instructors in this, but can they really connect to people who come from a place of pain? Can they relate to it? As someone who, like yourself, came from a place of pain, are you still able to relate to people who are in a place of pain now?
Of course I am, because I lived it for a countless number of years, and there was no one to help me. I had to dig my own way out. Granted, NLP provided tools, but they were not aimed at seduction. I had to figure out how to adopt them to seduction. Frank, I don't see how these guys could possibly understand the reality of the guy who's not particularly... Certainly, they couldn't understand your reality when you were morbidly obese. These are guys, I know one of these guys, his name starts with B. This guy's basic technique is he's so good looking, he walks into a place, women throw themselves at him. As long as he doesn't do anything stupid to screw it up, he's in. Okay? And if he knows how to handle any last minute resistance, he's in. He doesn't have to do anything beyond that. It's not a reality that most guys share. So I certainly understand those people. I'm far from a natural. Oh.
We got a call. Let's say we go to that call. Okay, Ross? You're on the air at Frank Talks. What's your name and what's your question?
Brian is my name.
Hi, Brian. And what's your question for Ross, please?
Well, my question is, for Ross Jeffries, is the best way for something not to come off canned, like what you can do, his tactics, so when he presents like a line or whatever, it doesn't come off canned. You understand?
Did you, Ross, did you hear the question?
I heard that question. How can you avoid being canned? To answer this guy's question, as far as avoiding being canned, there's a couple different approaches. I think oftentimes people sound canned because they don't have any real experience themselves of what they're describing. If you don't know what it feels like to be moved by a beautiful sunset, then it's pointless trying to describe it to somebody else. So first and foremost, you need to broaden the range of experiences emotionally that you actually have. That's one of the great things about speed seduction. It actually encourages and structures guys to improve their emotional range, so they really do become more emotionally well-rounded and facile, to use a word that most people, emotionally agile. All right. The second thing that I would say is adopt these things to your own personality. If you don't want to use the Discovery Channel pattern because you don't like roller coasters or whatever, come up with an adaptation. If you understand how the patterns work and what they're designed to do, then you can come up with your own variations. And in any case, the patterns are only meant to be examples. They're training wheels. To be sure, they can work. I know that, Frank, you probably had the experience of doing the pattern word for word and were shocked that it worked. I'm really shocked because as a guy, you would think, there's no way I would want to be talked to like this.
I have to agree. Yes, that's true. When I first started.
Yeah, so that's my other answer. And finally, a lot of speed seduction has evolved away from doing too much of the talking and asking questions instead and shaping her responses, so she's doing most of the seducing.
Can I ask another question about that?
Yes.
Like when you first go up, I mean, she doesn't have much invested in it, so when you're asked, I don't understand because like I've been told a lot. When you're asking questions, I mean, why is she even at first going to want to answer them?
I start by doing something else. Usually, I'll start by saying something funny. Today, I met a girl in line at, I don't know if you have Starbucks there in where you live, but I was in line at Starbucks, and this girl was she was a musician, and she was dressed with a sense of style, and all I said was I looked at her, I said, I admire people with a great sense of style. And she laughed, she said, well, thank you. And now, I didn't actually say to her, hey, I think you have a sense of style. I applied it. I said, I admire people with a sense of style, implying that she must be that because I'm talking to her, right? And then we just started talking from there. So I wouldn't start out by asking some kind of seduction question. I'd probably start out by making them laugh or commenting on something in the environment and making them laugh, and then I'd bring up the question. You understand?
Mm-hmm. I'm a fan of you. You had me cracking up in one of your seminars I got. When you're talking about how to get free food in one of your seminars. I don't know if you remember.
Where are you calling from, Brian?
From Los Angeles.
Los Angeles. Great. All right, let's see if we have another caller on the line. Brian, thank you very much for calling. We really appreciate it. All right, Ross, you there?
Yep, I'm not going away. You don't have to ask if I'm there. You can just keep going. I'm here.
Well, this is new technology for me, so I just want to make sure that I haven't lost you yet.
Well, you're moving in a new direction, and I think when you want to take a new direction, inside you can think to yourself, I really want to succeed. You really want to succumb to a direction that leads you where you want to go. You understand?
That's quite an inside joke there, Ross.
And when you have those feelings, I think you could give yourself a hand.
We got another caller, Ross. You ready?
Those feelings, yeah.
All right. Hi, you're on the air at Frank Talks Pleasures and Lifestyles. What's your name and what's your question for Ross?
This is Steve. How you guys doing?
Very good. What's your question, Steve?
What's the best way to get these patterns in your head in terms of maybe memorizing? Because that's my biggest thing is getting them down so I can recite them. I know one of Ross's students, Kamal, didn't really get, couldn't memorize, but that's my problem.
You shouldn't memorize them. Just first of all, understand how they work.
I do.
Look, they're only examples. Yes, sometimes you can do a pattern word for word, and the girl's going to cream herself and jump on. Yeah, that's happened countless times. And they're only training wheels. They're only designed to give you an idea of the kind of language that excites women. So instead, what I would do is write your own pattern. Think of a theme and a subject that would excite women, and write your own pattern.
Gotcha.
Create your own pattern based on understanding how they work. One of the things I would recommend, Dave Riker has a new course. It's a Speed Seduction Language course. Go to his website. It's daveriker.com, DAVERIKER.com. Order it directly from him, daveriker.com. Pick up those two courses. It'll show you how to get around having to memorize any.
Sounds good.
Steve, thank you very much for the call. We're going to go to commercial, and we'll be back right after this.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by Everything Out of Her Mouth is a Test, a man's guide to the emotional needs of women. Ladies, does your man squash your inner vixen? When you ask him to repeat what you have just said to him, does he look at you like a deer caught in the headlights? Does he think that leaving the game on while you talk to him is a good idea? Is his favorite phrase, "Yes, dear, you are absolutely right"? Does wife or girlfriend mean boring and dull to him? Ladies, don't you wish that he knows what you mean when you ask him if you look fat? Then you need to buy him the book, Everything Out of Her Mouth is a Test, a man's guide to the emotional needs of women. On sale now at franktalks.com.
From Loser to Seducer is the story of Frank B. Kermit. This book marks the triumph of a nice guy over most of his inner demons. This includes going from being a loser to managing 5 lovers at the same time, his first Valentine's date with 2 women at the same time, and getting back the one that got away. Want to learn how you can change your life? Buy this book at franktalks.com.
And we're back on Frank Talks Pleasures and Lifestyles, interviewing Ross Jeffries. Ross, I got to ask you one of those potential no-comment questions.
Sure.
Is there a special lady in your life right now?
No comment.
Dude, let's talk about having relationships once you have mastered the art of seduction. Is love even possible? Is it possible for a seducer to actually find love when he can create attraction and connection with a woman?
That's a silly question. Look, let's turn it around. Is it possible for someone who lives in nothing but scarcity and who can only accidentally, occasionally find someone who's attracted to them, is it really possible for that person to ever love? Because they're coming from such need and scarcity. Let's turn the question around. When someone's coming from a poverty of experience, very little experience, are they really loving, or are they just finally settling for anyone who's filling their desperate need?
Do you necessarily think that polyamory is better than monogamy?
I believe the choice is always better than enforced standards that may not fit your own individualistic needs.
And do you think that it's possible for a man who has mastered the art of seduction to ever really find the one? Does the one even exist at that point?
I don't know what the one means. Is it possible to find someone who you can continually make the choice to love and really enjoy? Of course. That's a ridiculous question. Of course. I think it's very rarely possible on the other side of the equation for someone who doesn't know how to create attraction very well, because, when they do find it, it's usually in a background of scarcity, and that doesn't work for anybody.
In your opinion, at what point does a speed seduction practitioner go from conscious to unconscious competence?
I don't know. What, you want me to identify the number of months, years, weeks? I don't understand how it's not a bad question, it's just a difficult one to answer. I would say when they no longer feel that they have to stop to try to figure out every situation, and things no longer feel like you're pushing through something to make it work, then you've got a level of mastery. But let me say this. No one, myself included, and any of the students I've ever met, ever masters women. Ever. The best we can do is do really well and be on even footing with these wonderful, chaotic, powerful, amazing, magical, maddening, lovely fellow humans called females, okay? The best we can hope for is parity because they have tremendous power sexually, they have tremendous intuitive capabilities, they are formidable. Even the weakest of them is formidable. So don't get your nose too high up in the air, because I will tell you, mastery when it comes to women is the recognition that there's no such thing as complete mastery. You're always learning. There's always going to be chaotic situations that blow up in your face. That's life. That's living. Deal with it.
I gotta ask you something here, Ross. When somebody is just starting out with your material, and they're inundated with so much other material out there from the seduction community.
Don't call that other stuff. It's mostly crap.
Now let me ask you this. The seduction community is going in waves. There's always, the latest new thing. I think the next wave, correct me if I'm wrong, is the inner game movement. What do you think about inner game?
I've been teaching inner game since 1993 when I did my Unstoppable Confidence tapes. So there's nothing new under the sun when it comes to that. I've been teaching it since 93. And the thing is, I've cracked that wide open. I've cracked open this whole thing of learned helplessness, where how do you take a guy who's deeply emotionally wounded in this area and get him to see new possibilities without bringing up the old ways of thinking and feeling, without having to see them through old ways. I've cracked that open. No one else has even close.
All right. One last question before we go to commercial, and that is seduction community. Do you have any thoughts as to the direction the seduction community has taken for the future?
Yeah, they need to take a new direction inside of their ass, being themselves the question, but how can I get out of Ross's way and retire? Because, I don't know. They're just going to have imitators imitating rip-offs of imitations of an imitator. You understand? It's just people with no qualifications who don't know what they're doing, teaching watered-down, ripped-off stuff that they ripped off from a rip-offer of another rip-offer of another counterfeiter.
We're going to go to commercial, and we'll be back after this.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by Everything Out of Her Mouth is a Test, a man's guide to the emotional needs of women. Ladies, does your man squash your inner vixen? When you ask him to repeat what you have just said to him, does he look at you like a deer caught in the headlights? Does he think that leaving the game on while you talk to him is a good idea? Is his favorite phrase, "Yes, dear, you are absolutely right"? Does wife or girlfriend mean boring and dull to him? Ladies, don't you wish that he knows what you mean when you ask him if you look fat? Then you need to buy him the book Everything Out of Her Mouth is a Test, a man's guide to the emotional needs of women. On sale now at franktalks.com.
From Loser to Seducer is the story of Frank B. Kermit. This book marks the triumph of a nice guy over most of his inner demons. This includes going from being a loser to managing 5 lovers at the same time, his first Valentine's date with 2 women at the same time, and getting back the one that got away. Want to learn how you can change your life? Buy this book at franktalks.com.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by the Adult Male Virgin Seminar and Telephone Consultations. Ladies, is your boyfriend an adult male virgin? Is he so shy and insecure that you need to take the initiative, but you really wish he would just be the man and take the lead? Does he think holding hands and sweet cheek kisses is fulfilling? Does he think the G-spot is the name of a new club? Ladies, if his idea of a night of fun means you get to be player number 2 in his latest video game, then get him the gift that will give you both pleasure: the Adult Male Virgin Seminar and Telephone Consultations. Only available at franktalks.com. Frank helps adult boys become men.
Okay, we're back. It's Frank Talks, Pleasures and Lifestyles. We got a caller for Ross. Hello, you're on the air. Would you please give us your name and where you're calling from?
Hi, this is Jeff from New York.
Hi, Jeff from New York, and what's your question for Ross Jeffries?
Our question is, what's your favorite NLP book out there for someone that wants to get started in it?
My favorite NLP book?
Yeah.
Well, so you're looking to improve your NLPness, yes?
Yes.
Well, I don't think there are too many very good NLP books. I guess, I don't know. You know what? I don't think there are any really good NLP books. I would suggest instead you look into the work of my teacher, Shinzen Young. He kicks Bandler in the ass and it makes NLP look silly. It's www.shinzen, S-H, that's S-H-I-N, like shinbone, Z-E-N, shinzen.org. He's got a book called Breakthrough Pain that I highly recommend.
I'll get that. And the other thing is about anchoring yourself in state.
Yes.
About to be in state. Because an anchor has never worked for me ever before. I don't even believe in them. Wanted to hear your thoughts on them.
Anchoring doesn't work for you?
Yeah, I've never gotten it to work.
There are other things you can do besides anchoring. Again, just check out Shinzen's work. It'll teach you what you need.
Okay.
Greatest teacher I've ever met in my life.
Sounds good.
All right. Thank you very much, caller. Okay. Ross, we really don't have that much time left. Why don't you give the people listening your website and maybe some future appearances that you're going to make?
Right now, I haven't worked out my 2007 schedule, but for the website, go to www.seduction.com. www.seduction.com.
Ross, it's been really great having you on the show. I sincerely hope that we'll be able to bring you on again in the future for more Frank Talks.
All right, thanks much.
All right. I'm Frank because I have to be, and this has been Frank Talks, Pleasures and Lifestyles. Take care, everybody.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by the Adult Male Virgin Seminar and Telephone Consultations. Guys, if the only breast you ever touched was in a bucket of chicken, you need the Adult Male Virgin Seminar. If the only thing you've licked recently has been your fingers to turn the pages of a book, you need the Adult Male Virgin Seminar. If the only female body part you are familiar with wears a cape, can fly, or has superpowers, you need the Adult Male Virgin Seminar. If you think the G-spot is the name of a new club, you need the Adult Male Virgin Seminar. If the words missionary conjures up images of guys in long robes, you need the Adult Male Virgin Seminar. If the only sensation your fingers have had are pressing the buttons on your remote control, then you need the Adult Male Virgin Seminar. Do you know what it means when a woman asks you up to her place for coffee? If you think that she is thirsty for caffeine, then you definitely need the Adult Male Virgin Seminar. Only available at franktalks.com. Frank helps adult boys become men.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by Pimping Your Pad Seminars. Decorating your bachelor apartment, your home, and the way you live is an extension of your sexuality. Frank will show you, with pictures of his own home, what women look for that identifies you as a potential partner. Frank looks at everything from theme rooms to furniture placement and space management to pets to the organization of your bathroom to get women to want to spend the night. The Pimping Your Pad Seminars and Telephone Consultations, only available at franktalks.com.
If If you need help with your relationships, my buddy Frank, he's got some tips. Just go to franktalks.com. His advice is better than your mom's. He knows what you're going through, 'cause Frank has been there too. So log on to franktalks.com. franktalks.com.
Need help with love, sex, dating, or relationship issues? Help from Frank Kermit, the best-selling author and Canada's most international relationship coach, is only a click away at franktalks.com. What do you do when you feel like a fool? When your heart has been broken again? Pick up the phone or get onto Skype and talk on a private session. Yeah, get a little help from Frank Talks. Whoa, whoa, get by with a little help from Frank Talks. You gotta try a little help from Frank Talks. What do you do when your love goes away? Try coaching one-on-one. How do I sign up to turn things around? Just sign up at franktalks.com. Yeah, get by with help from Frank Talks. I get by with a little help from Frank Talks. Time to try a little help from Frank Talks. Does it cost a lot of money? It's the best rate going around. Could it cost a lot of money? Oh, it's worth every cent that you will put down. Yeah, franktalks.com. Oh, you got to go to get your help from franktalks.com. Yeah, yeah. franktalks.com. Would you believe that Frank gets results? Yes, we're certain. Just read the reviews. Frank knows his stuff, and Frank's got the goods. Good love can soon come to you.